Okay, so we're going to look at that first introductory section, which is it's a self-contained soliloquy on its own, where Lady Macbeth formulates her plan through analysing Macbeth's character and his nature, and then comes to that sense of resolution in that long final sentence at the end. We're going to look at the style features in this opening soliloquy that give us that sense of her formulating and plotting, and through her analysis of Macbeth's nature. So the extract opens with this fairly resolute statement. Glams thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. And what we see in this, importantly, first of all, is what's called a tricolon, which is what's called a rhetorical scheme. Rhetorical schemes are patterns of words and syntactical structures in sentences that are ordered in a particular way for a specific effect. Now, what we see here, I think, is the confidence that she has in her plan. It's a very assertive, confident sounding series of actually declarative statements. They're repeated declarative statements. They are confident, assertive explanations of the state of the situation. Glams thou art, he is Thane of Glams. And Cawdor, and there's a second unit of speech added here, which is what contributes to the tricolon, and shalt be what thou art promised. So there's these three separate clauses that are all declarative phrases that are assertive in their confidence about the state of Macbeth's situation. And so we see this huge sense of, I think, confident resolution that opens the soliloquy through that tricolon. However, this changes very quickly. Yet I do fear thy nature. And so there's this sense of hesitancy that comes from this conjunction that follows the semicolon. Yet I do fear thy nature. We're changing tack here. This shows us this phrase, a change of direction and a sense of hesitancy that is not in this opening confident statement. And we have the most famous metaphor, I think, in this piece of the text. Yet I do fear thy nature is too full of the milk of human kindness. And so describing Macbeth's character as if it is full of the milk of human kindness, this metaphor is comparing Macbeth's character with the quality of kindness itself and the milkiness of human kindness. So what we see then is something that is good-natured and, in terms of its colour, symbolic of innocence and something nurturing almost. And yet this is ironic to us as the audience, because we've seen in the opening of this play Macbeth absolutely destroying other soldiers. You know, this is the man who unseamed a soldier from his knave to his chops. He literally slices a man in half and disembowels him with a sword. So the fact that Lady Macbeth thinks of his character in this way is quite surprising, and it reveals a lot about her and her malignity in relation to Macbeth, as much as it does reveal something about Macbeth here. He is too full of this kindness to catch the nearest way. And this is a personification. This phrase means to snatch at the most convenient route. And so his nature is here personified itself, to catch the nearest way, as if in this sort of sense of almost aggressive pragmatism. It's an aggressive pragmatism that Macbeth lacks, and we see that through his soul being personified. It's not actually able to catch the nearest way, and his soul is not pragmatic enough here for Lady Macbeth to like him. She then says, thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness that should attend it. And so, again, we have this use of the tricolon here that is analysing Macbeth's flaws and strengths in contrast to her pragmatism. You would be great, you would like to be powerful, and are not without ambition, but you are without the illness that should attend it. And so here she means the wickedness and cruelty that should accompany greatness. So what she appears to be saying here is that you would like to be great, and you are ambitious enough, but you don't have almost the stomach to tolerate the wickedness that you need to secure that sense of greatness. So she sees evil here as almost a necessary feature of ambition and greatness. Securing greatness and ambition, you must be able to tolerate the illness that attends it. You need to be able to put up with the compromising morality, or the compromising of morality that would occur in someone who attempts to be great. she then cryptically continues this analysis. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily. Now, what this literally means is what you would achieve in terms of intensity and greatness, what you would like to achieve through intensity and greatness, that wouldst thou holily, you will only achieve through righteous means. So here she's describing the opposite attitude to what she thinks is necessary, that you achieve high things through acting holily. Importantly, in terms of structure here, this is what's called parallelism, where you use comparable grammatic constructions. What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily. There's a repetition of the grammatic structure here, the pronoun, the verb, and the adjective, and the adverb, and then the verb, the pronoun, the adjective. There's a repetition of those grammatical structures across these two clauses. And it shows, I think, the balance and order in Macbeth's personality, and she seeks to disrupt this. So this grammatical structure that shows us the way that Macbeth thinks, he will only achieve high success through noble intentions and noble, morally defensible behavior. That balanced scheme, rhetorical scheme, the use of parallelism, which is another rhetorical scheme, gives us here the sense of the balance and order in his character that she knows she's going to need to disrupt to convince him to be wicked. Then we see a further example of parallelism that actually creates what's called antithesis, two opposing ideas. She says Macbeth would not play false and yet would wrongly win. Macbeth would not cheat and yet would win what is not his own. And so here, this antithesis of not being able to play false but winning wrongly shows us, I think, the indecision in his makeup. It shows us that she thinks Macbeth is hypocritical almost, and that is indecisive in his pursuit of greatness, and that this indecisiveness is something that she believes she can exploit. Would not play false and yet would wrongly win. Thou wouldst have great claims, that which cries, thus thou must do. So here she says, you would have, Macbeth, that which cries, thus thou must do. He will only here act according to this voice, thus thou must do, which is a voice of conscience. So what we see here is her using reported speech, almost to embody Macbeth's conscience. He has a voice in his head that tells him that this is the way you should behave, if thou have it. So there's, again, a little sense of hesitancy on her part about this type of behaviour, acting according to the voice of conscience. And that which rather thou dost fear to do than wishest should be undone. And so this is what he is after something that he is actually scared of, rather than something that he wishes wouldn't happen. So it's fear that's motivating him to not do what he is seeking, rather than his real desires. He really wants to be King of Scotland, but he is scared to do what it takes to become King of Scotland. That's what she seems to be saying here. Importantly, there's this repetition, though, of dost, do, should, undone. There's a repetition of this word of doing and certainty, I think, that shows us her pragmatism and her singular focus on just doing what it takes to get to the position of power that she's looking for here. Then she shifts, and this is where she seems resolved. Hie thee hither, return, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear. And so she hear this metaphor comparing her ideas to sort of evil spirits that she's physically going to pour in his ear. Gives us a sense of her ideas being evil and persuasive and almost unnatural, that she's going to pour her spirits in his ear, and then chastise with the valour of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round. I'm going to chastise, I'm going to criticise with the bravery of my tongue everything that gets in the way of you getting your hands on the crown. And so here, she personifies her speech. I'm going to chastise with the valour of my tongue. My speech is going to chastise with its bravery everything that stops you from being king. I think she portrays her language itself as both evil and powerful and pragmatic and brave in response to his milky nature and his what we'd call vacillation, his moving around and being uncertain in his decision making. Finally, all that impedes thee from the golden round, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have thee crowned withal. So fate and metaphysical means, destiny and supernatural forces. Destiny and supernatural forces seem to have Macbeth crowned with the golden round. She thinks they're both on his side. And so, of course, here she personifies fate and supernatural powers in order to make it seem like Macbeth is not really even in control of his destiny and in his fate. And she is on the side of what we'd call metaphysical aid, of supernatural forces. And that's precisely what she invokes in the bottom section of this interaction and her soliloquy. So here we end with this sense of evil resolution that is only interrupted in that third section by the attendant